What I'm about to say might offend some of the ladies out there watching, but I mean absolutely no offense by what this video is intended to say, because I want to share with you something really cool that I learned after an experience I had a couple of weeks ago. So picture this, a couple of weeks ago I was sitting here in this very lounge room in my apartment, and I could really feel the overwhelm just starting to bubble up. I'm sure you know what that feels like. Anxiety, overwhelm, it's one of those emotions that I hear more often than not from the women that I work with. So things started to fall apart, and they could have gone really pear-shaped. I could have ended up in a sobbing mess on the couch. And then I realized that I had just listened to some really valuable information in a podcast by a woman who is also a coach, and her name's Brooke Castile. And what she said about overwhelm is that overwhelm is never caused by what is going on in your life and having too many options. We all believe that that is why overwhelm exists. But in fact, overwhelm is not happening to you. It's something that you have created. So typically when we're feeling overwhelmed, we're indulging in these really unproductive emotions. You know, we feel a sense of self-pity, we want everybody to come to our rescue. And instead of looking at the abundance of options that we have available to us, and that's actually something we could be super grateful for in this day and age. You know, the fact that we could literally do anything, go anywhere, be anything, and instead we wallow in this self-pity. So the reason I wanted to share this with you today was that when I had this experience and then I recalled those words from Brooke, it really got me thinking. You know, why is it that so many women tell me, oh my God, I'm just so overwhelmed all the time. I've got way too many options. You know, they have this burning desire to get crystal clear on one hand, and then in the same sentence they're telling me there's too many options and they don't know where to start. And that is because clarity and overwhelm are actually mutually exclusive. So you can't desire one, clarity, but sit in a space of overwhelm. Really, it's down to one or the other. That's the options. So one's a really protective state of being when you're crystal clear and you're on that path, and the other not so much. So let me give you an example of a time when I could have gotten super overwhelmed in the past. And I actually unknowingly used Brooke's method. So planning a wedding, you know, it's the one thing that most of us women all dream of as we're growing up. You know, it's that one day that kind of eclipses all of the things that you've ever wanted, super romantic, all of those things. So the couple of things that made planning a wedding really pivotal for me was that we decided to plan our wedding in less than 3 months. And for most people, their jaw would probably be dropping and going, oh my God, are you crazy? And secondly, I own this, I was not a very good decision maker. And it was something that I really had to get into action with and become a decision maker. Otherwise, there was going to be no wedding at all. So as we went about putting the components of our wedding together, we knew that time was not on our side, so we had to make swift decisions. There's nothing like a time pressure to force you into making quick decisions. You know, there was no time for overwhelm, there's no time for what ifs. Basically, the first florist I went to, I picked their flowers. The third dress I tried on, I went for that one. You know, and we just weeded out all of the things as we weeded out all of the things that weren't on our must-have list. You know, and the cool thing was that we came in on budget with this experience, and we had the most amazing day of our life, and it was exactly what we wanted. So how do we manage overwhelm and indecision? Whether it be planning a wedding like me, finding a new job or starting a career and still finding the capacity to move forward. So Brooke said something really valuable in this podcast that stuck with me. We need to train our brains to manage options, because our brain wasn't designed to handle all the options that we have today. You've got to think, when our brain evolved, tens of thousands of years ago, there wasn't quite the plethora of options that we have today. So you can understand the brain comes a little bit unstuck when it comes to decision making. And if you begin to feel a little bit of overwhelm, just a tiny bit at all, there's 5 things that I want you to do. The first thing, I want you to ask yourself, what is the payoff if I stay in this emotion of overwhelm right now? 99% of the time, there is absolutely no upside to being overwhelmed. I also want you to remember that if you stand still and you aren't inviting in the possibility that comes with powerful decision making, potentially stepping into the career you love, the money desire, and the location you dream of living in, you're not inviting it in. You're a closed door, basically. The second thing that I want you to repeat to yourself is that everything is figure outable. And I have to say that I actually stole this one from Marie Forleo, but ever since I did her B-School training, it has stuck with me the whole way. The third thing, and my example of a wedding was really key to this: practice making decisions over and over again. Make opportunities, give yourself opportunities to make lots of decisions. And that often comes with being on a bit of a path of discovery where perhaps the journey is unknown. You're going to be forced to make lots of decisions along the way, and that's the only way that you'll get momentum and move yourself forward. The fourth thing you need to do is break it down to a maths problem. And this is a little bit more masculine and not a super feminine way of looking at decision making. But in essence, everything is a maths problem, whether it be budgeting for a holiday, whether it be deciding what career direction you're going to go in, or perhaps it's starting a business. Start with the numbers, break down the problem into steps. It's as simple as that, really. And it's like creating a to-do list, but what you want to do is basically look at it as a maths problem. This is really no big deal at all. It's just a bunch of steps, 1 + 1 + 1 + 1, until you get to the final answer. And this is a really great way to take all of the emotion out of the decision-making process, which for us ladies can sometimes be a little bit tricky. So, put your masculine brain on, look at the facts, break it down as a maths problem, and away you go. And the fifth thing that I want you to exercise is constraint. Narrow down your options to 1, 2, maybe 3 max things that you could focus on, and then make your decision from that point. The sixth thing that I want you to do is back yourself, lady. Follow through. Choose something and go forward with it. Don't choose something and then turn around and run the other way. The more often that you make decisions and then you back yourself along the way, the easier it's going to get, the less anxiety you're going to feel, and ultimately your overwhelm will be reduced to absolutely nothing. So one thing I want you to take away from this, remember that the choices that we have today as a modern woman are an absolute blessing, especially women living in the Western world. We are so fortunate, and we should be so grateful for that. Secondly, powerful choices create freedom. I don't know how many times I've made a huge choice in my life you know, whether it be scary or whether it actually be a very easy decision, but when I've walked into that decision and gone, this is it, it is so liberating. So just remember that powerful decision making creates freedom. If you like this video, I want you to share it with your friends, give it some love. You know, this time of year as we hit the holiday season, we can all use a little strategy when it comes to overwhelm. I know I definitely will need some, and I hope this has been of value to you. I look forward to seeing you again really soon.